Hello and welcome to this episode of Crossing Borders with Nathan Lustig, where I have conversations with entrepreneurs doing business across borders and the people who support them, with a focus on those with some connection to Latin America. My guest today is Carlos Moyses, the CEO of iFood, the Brazilian food delivery giant that's backed by Mobile and Naspers. iFood has more than 6 million clients, 1,000 employees, and tens of thousands of riders who deliver food all over Brazil and Latin America each day. We cover Carlos's career in finance, his move to starting his own business, and then making the jump into tech startups where he worked with Grupalia and then Peixe Urbano, a Brazilian Groupon clone. He then started work with Just Eat, the UK food delivery giant, which later merged with iFood and went on an acquisition spree across Brazil to consolidate the market to create a base to expand in the region. We talk about iFood's growth plans, Carlos's view on building culture, and how he sees the food delivery space continuing to grow in the future. I hope you enjoy our conversation. Hey, Carlos, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for taking the time to do it.
Thanks, Nathan. Thanks for the invite.
No, this is going to be fun. So where are you in the world today?
Well, we're based in São Paulo, in Brazil. Our operation started in Brazil, but we are present in Brazil, Mexico, and Colombia. And we look forward to go in other countries too.
And so what does iFood do?
Well, iFood is an online delivery platform. Today we have two business models. One business model is marketplace, where we connect hungry users with restaurants, and the second business is we connect hungry users with restaurants and riders, actually, because in Brazil we don't have drivers delivering food. So we are in the food delivery space. Uh, and we are really happy with the business down here in Brazil. So it's amazing growth, amazing business.
So a lot of people listening on the podcast may not have heard about the ecosystem for tech in Brazil and what it's like having a tech business in Brazil. Can you give a little bit of background for someone who maybe hasn't either been to Brazil or maybe just went to the beach when they were there about what it's like to operate a business and the tech ecosystem?
All right. Well, the tech ecosystem in Brazil is I think that's just starting. The internet penetration and smartphone penetration, it's quite a while ago that's started. So I think that the service, the online to offline services and service throughout the internet is growing, boosting in Brazil. We saw that it's starting in the tourism and flights in the beginning, and now we are seeing with food delivery and taxes. So and there's plenty of opportunity for the future because it's just starting. I always say that we are a bit behind of what's happening in China or even in the United States. So there's a plenty of opportunity for the future. It's just starting the market, and people start to like to do everything online. In Brazil, most of the people are connected on the social networks more time than everywhere else. So that's a amazing opportunity for tech companies in Brazil.
And what kind of size is iFood today? How many people are using it on a monthly or yearly basis, and how many cities are you in? And what what's kind of the market penetration that you guys see for food delivery right now?
All right, so we have 6 million users on our platform today here in Brazil. The penetration, it's hard to say. It's a lot of misinformation about the size of the market. It's hard to predict exactly how it is, but we do think that we are just in the beginning. Probably we are around uh, 10-15% of what we believe that's the addressable market in Brazil today. But it's important to say that the food delivery started in Brazil with independent pizza places 10 years ago, and this market is evolving throughout those years. I think iFood uh, was really important to help this food delivery business evolve. And how did they do that? Because we could show to the users that we had much more options of food to be delivered in your house, not only the pizza that back in time was delivered. Because of the packaging had developed a lot as well. So today we have more than 28 um, kind of kitchens in Brazil that we have on our platform that's delivering for people. There is a today the new buildings and new houses, they're really smaller kitchens, so people are not are seeing the pain of cooking, every day. So they are now choosing much more to order online. So it's important to say that even though we think that we are in really small, we still have a plenty of room to grow on the addressable market. This addressable market will boost in the near future of Brazil, just because people will even more not cook, and have the convenience to order online and have the food ready to eat in their houses.
Now, it's an interesting trend of more and more people ordering online and not cooking at home. I think that's happening worldwide, and it's interesting to hear that it's also happening in Brazil. I want to talk more about iFood and dive into that story a little more in a little bit, but I wanted to jump back into your story. So, where are you from originally?
I'm from São Paulo. I've been here for since I was born. I worked in I'm a business administrator. Uh, I started my career in the Safra Bank with in as planning analyst, financial analyst. Then I went to Australia to do to learn English and live a bit there for almost 2 years in Australia. I got back to Brazil. Here in Brazil, I worked for an industry as a financial manager. Then I went to start to entrepreneur. So I did a lot of things through those years. I had my own restaurants. I had a company that was outsourcing manpower to the entertainment market. And then in 2010 I started to work with startups in the internet space. So first business was a daily deal business, a Groupon like business in Brazil called Groupon. It was a Spanish investor that was launched in Brazil. 2 years later, we sold this business to the market leader that was Peixe Urbano, and then I joined Restaurant Web. Restaurant Web was competing with iFood in the beginning. Uh, Restaurant Web was bought by Just Eat. That's the online delivery giant based in UK. Those guys, they bought this business in 2011. So 2012, I joined the business with them. In 2014, we merged with iFood. From there now, from then until now, I'm here in iFood.
So when you went from more traditional business to the first time moving into your own business, why did you make that decision and what kind of pushed you to do that?
Well, I think that's a nice history. I was working to a company, industry that had a really small number of people in Brazil. We were 3 people, and everything were outsourced. Everything on the company was outsourced. The All the manufacturing was in Argentina. The invoicing was done by Deloitte and things like that. And by that time, I was figuring out that I was capable to do something by myself. That I didn't need to work for someone else, and I could do much more. So then I decided that was the time. I was only 25 years old, but was the time to move on and make build my own business and try to do different stuff. I started with what I knew was a finance guy, so I started to do finance consulting for a smaller business, and then I saw that opportunities were coming. People that we were speaking uh, were bringing other stuff that we could do. Then I decided to launch other business. I would try many business. I closed it down. Others was a really success, and that was a bit of the history.
And what lessons did you learn having your own business that you use, say, today or in some of your previous jobs in bigger companies now?
Well, I think the first lesson that you don't do anything by yourself. You really need to build a team, a really strong team that can help you to drive the growth and build everything. So build the business. So this is really really important. So most of my time I spend with my team, trying to develop people, try to understand who can do the best job, and how they can do it. How can I help them to do it. uh, the second thing, that you have to dream big. It doesn't matter what. It's I always hear that, but it's that's true. It's the same pain you dream small and big. So why don't you just dream big and go really further? So this is I learn a lot with that. And the third one that for me is really really important is that you can do the things you can do by yourself. You can in the way that people are. You guys are. We are people that are. How can I say that? I'm confident enough that we can build things. That we can do more. We can challenge people really. Most of people that we see, people don't think that how capable they are. So, and I do trust on people. I do trust that people can do more. So this is I use for myself all the time. All the time I challenge myself, say, look, I can do more. I can do more. I can go further. And this is something that motivates me.
Yeah, I think those are really good lessons. And so when you were starting, you were in a background with of finance. Then when you started your own business, it was more sort of traditional businesses, but then you made a jump into tech. What was that jump like, and why did you start to get interested in startups and technology?
Well, I think that's when we in back in time we had the traditional business. We saw that many things were really difficult to do, to scale. And and then I saw some business scaling so fast with technology, and we could see that people will really change the behavior they do they do things. So I think the technology is not only changing the way people are consuming, but this is a way of life. People are really changing. They're not calling anyone else. They are not keen to be go out. They need more convenience. So I saw that the technology space uh, would be the way to make things happen in the world. So that's why I decided to go to technology.
And the daily deals sites, which were so big in say 2009, 10, 11, 12, all across Latin America, not just in Brazil, have led to lots of people getting experience in tech and then going on to work in other industries. For example, the guys who did Groupon Latam from Chile are the founders of Cornershop, which just sold to Walmart for 225 million. And many of the Groupon Latam people have gone on to start other businesses. And you were part of that with Grupalia and then Peixe Urbano. What was that like at the time with an industry that was just taking off and growing really, really fast?
Yeah, what was interesting to that happens that back in time was that the size of the investment the players were doing in the market, and the speed of the growth. So this was just incredible for someone like me that was working the traditional business and internet business. The speed of the companies are totally different. I always say that things here in iFood happen like 4 years in 1 year. Uh, uh, so it's really really important to understand it, and to be much more open minded what we can do. Because things change, we have to address it and go further. So what happens by the time that a lot of people were investing, things were the competition was huge. People were getting online, were understanding how to buy, were changing the behavior, so people could see products and services online. And it was really helpful in for, I would say, everywhere, but mainly here in Latam, to educate people that they could order online or even pay online. If we see the traditional e-commerces in Brazil, they still have a lot of offline payment, uh, but in this in business, on the Groupon like business, were totally different. So people were paying online. So, and that educated a lot the market, that people could use online service, and it brought a lot of people to this market, a lot of friends that I still working with from that time, to develop a lot of people as well, and talent.
So when you started at Just Eat in 2012, what was the food delivery like or market like in Brazil, both offline and online?
I think that we were fortunate because the delivery market in Brazil, the pizza delivery market in Brazil, was strong enough already. The Brazilians, they do like to order, or they do like to order delivery. So it was good to see that. It was We had a big barrier to educate the market, to show that we were not a Groupon like business. We were not a daily deal business. We were a food delivery business. They did not have to give us discounts or anything like that. That the commissions were totally different. The value proposition of our business was totally different. So it was really challenging in the beginning to show the restaurants and partners that it was a different business. But the users, they were really like the experience. So from the user side, we focus a lot our business to educate the user that they could order online. And then that was much better to have all the restaurants and cuisines on your hands. So this is a thing that was really really important, because in the past you had that leaflets that you have in your house with outdated prices and even menus. So then we have a technology on your hands that you could see, the prices and cuisines, and you could order. You don't need to speak to anyone. Your order will arrive as you ordered, because no one is writing down and making mistakes with what you order. So it was challenge in the beginning to educate the market, but I think that we were really successful, because people, we I think that we actually it was a pain for the consumer to order offline. So people start to try our product and try to use it. They usually stick to the product and with and keep ordering with us. So this is amazing trend.
So it looks like from during about a 2 to 3 year period, iFood made 20 plus acquisitions all around Brazil in the food delivery market. How did that happen, and what was it like being part of one of the companies that ended up as part of iFood?
So I think it's important to say that we are backed by Movili and Just Eat. Those investors, they are really willing to support us on the long term. They are strategic investors that are on the long term. Movili is backed by Naspers, and Naspers has in their DNA acquisitions and M&As, and that's all. So this was brought to us, and an opportunity to consolidate the Brazilian market. Actually, it's true to say that the growth didn't come from those consolidation, from those acquisitions. Only a small part of our growth came from that. The most important thing was to have everyone working together. Everyone working behind one brand only and one technology only. So this was really really important for us. iFood is a business of entrepreneurs. We have people that came from all those acquisitions that are working with us until now. We are almost 1,000 people here in Brazil, and most of them people really. Entrepreneurship is really really important for us. We want to give autonomy to those guys to help us to build a different business in the future. So we all the time. So that was really really important. What we bought, actually, we bought people, and we bought the relationship on the restaurants regionally. So that was the strategy behind it, and it was really, really successful. And those guys are really happy with us today. iFood has a strong growth. Everyone is really happy with what we are building, with the culture we have in the company, and that's it's been amazing to go through this history.
Yeah, I think it's interesting to hear about the acquisitions because not just in food delivery, but also Mobile is one of the leaders in acquisitions in Latin America in terms of numbers of companies. And it's something that as investors and entrepreneurs, you don't see as much in Latin America. So it's interesting to see companies that have it as part of their DNA. So what was that process like of integrating all of the different acquisitions into one brand and one culture?
Well, first of all, I think that's all the companies that we bought or invested. We tried to find a cultural fit with us. It was really, really important since the beginning. Secondly, what we tried to do is, and we did different cases in any of the markets we did it. So we have people that we integrate the system in the end of the earnout, people that we did it in the beginning. So we were all the first thing we were looking to the technology and saying, look, those guys, they do have the same technology. What are the features that they do have that's important for their region? And what we can replicate here? What the time we are gonna do it? Then we were discussing with the entrepreneur what's the best time to integrate it. Most of the companies we did integrate in a really short term. It was like 3 months times or 2 months time, and because they saw that in our technology we would boost their growth. Uh, so it was important. Work through one brand was important because everyone is incentivized with the investment we were doing nationally through television and online. So for everyone, it was important to work and do not lose efforts investing in different brands. So just in the day one we were stopping to invest on the brands and we kept investing only in iFood.
So once everybody was under one brand and one technology and started moving forward, what was the inflection point where the company started to really take off and you knew that this was going to be as big as it is today?
Well, I think that's I always I since I joined this business, I really thought I really knew that we would be a big business in Latam because I was studying the markets in UK and United States. We were seeing the growth of Grubhub, Just Eat, and those guys. So I knew that. So I always knew that this would be, a really good business down here. And the delivery culture in Brazil is big. So we knew that we were solving a problem. We had the right culture, the right people, a good brand, and the right investors. So since the beginning I knew that we would succeed. Of course, the success doesn't is not is not always um, it's not let's say let's not always the right way we think it's gonna happen. A lot of problems, a lot of curves on our way, but we reached it there. So it was. I always have the faith to do it and to make it happen. And the inflection point, I think that was. Uh, I think what we suffered two main things here in Brazil. First was the smartphone penetration and use of a smartphone. So today, iFood is mostly our orders are coming from our apps. So I think that we were in the right moment. So we were the pioneer on that, and was the right moment for us. And secondly, was the investment we did uh, since the beginning of when we joined the force. It was the right size, and we were always scaling these investments to make sure that we are gonna bring it. So it was really good to see that.
And many Brazilian companies end up not trying to expand to the Spanish speaking side of Latin America and just end up just dominating the Brazilian market. But iFood and then at a higher level, Mobile have started to do things outside of just Brazil. So, how did that decision happen and what's that experience been like?
Well, we work for a global company. So Naspers is a truly global company that are always challenge us to do more and grow, and not only keep our investment in Brazil. So Naspers is traditionally looks business locally, try to scale to a global level. So those guys they challenge us since the beginning. You guys you have to go further. You have to do more. So and that was always our mindset. We have to go global. We have to go further, and that's what we did.
One of the things that I think is interesting is that the not just food delivery, but delivery of anything right now is a super hot market in Latin America with Rappi raising $200 million and becoming a unicorn, Cornershop getting acquired. You have Uber Eats, you've got Glovo, you've got lots and lots of different companies trying to win this market. What's it like to be in a competitive market like this, and how do you see that shaking out going forward?
Well, I always say that since the day one in iFood or even in restaurant web, we had competition. So competition is gonna be here all the time, and we have to face it. The biggest competition we have with the oven. So those guys, we want to have people not cooking and ordering online. So and that's a massive market for us. Then the competition will be here, and I do think that even with more people investing on the space, the bigger will be the market. So I really think that our competition it is with the oven, and it's quite healthy to have everyone down here.
And as iFood continues to expand across the region, have you seen different cultural differences between the countries that you've gone into in terms of workers? And if you have, how have you been able to incorporate them into the iFood culture that you talked about of being entrepreneurial and making decisions? How has that worked?
Well, I think that there are some I think that's likely the Latin countries they we have quite same culture. It's always have some difference, but most of the people have the same way of living. Um, but the way we do is we have a program here in iFood that we call international culinary. It is that we send people through from Brazil to other countries and from the countries to Brazil, and for 3 months program where people have a challenge to they have to develop in the country that they are arriving, and working with their mates in the other countries, so they can learn about the culture, and they can expand what we are doing, so the way of iFood thing. So that's was really important for us to integrate the culture, to have everyone the same boat, show the guys where we want to go and how we want to go. So was really important for us, and it's been quite successful. So each 3 months we send like 20 people around the world, just to learn and have and spread our culture around the world. So it's been a really good result so far.
And you mentioned 1,000 employees previously. Are does that include people who are doing deliveries, or is that like with Uber Eats or with a Rappi, where you have people that just receive the orders, and then
No,
you
no,
have a
no.
whole bunch more people that
We
work
have
on that as well?
we have 1,000 people only on iFood business. With our riders, we have more than 10,000 riders on the streets.
And of those riders, how many of them do you think are working full time and this is their only job, riding? And how many are doing it as just making some extra money on the side?
Um, it's hard to say, because we do not control it. We have two different business models on that. We have the cloud where we have the guy that's it's working for us, but probably they work for more people too, other players, or even independent restaurants. And we have third-party companies that they outsource for us the main power, and those guys probably are full-time employees. So it's hard to say what's the equation, because this changes every day. If it's raining, most of people doesn't want to deliver. So other guys that are jumping to the platform and say, look, I want to deliver, I want to make money, I know that you guys it's raining, but I want to work. So this changes every day, so I don't have these figures.
And what do you see as the next big challenge for iFood going forward?
Well, the biggest challenge is to keep growing. There is an amazing market into tap in Brazil and Latam. That's the challenge is to go in different occasions. Today, most of the people still ordering during the weekends and dinner time. So there is an potential upside on lunchtime and even on corporate lunch. So there is a big opportunity on different occasions in Brazil, and going or having people ordering more frequently. So it's a massive market where we can go in Brazil and out of Brazil. So we do believe that we are just in the beginning. This I always say to my team, this is the first 5 minutes, guys. So we have a lot of time ahead, a lot of things to do. So keep in mind that we're not done. We have to do a lot of things yet.
Do you have any books or blogs, podcasts, documentaries that you recommend to your team to keep the culture together?
Well, Big Dream is one that I always have and consult. There are other ones that I'm not remember the names here now, but I.
We can include those in the show notes later if you send them after. We can put some of your recommendations there.
All right,
Um,
perfect.
what advice would you give to yourself if you could go back to the time when you were just starting in the food delivery business, knowing what you know today? What advice would you give yourself?
Well, that's a hard one. Uh, I think that's a. I think I did the things that I trusted, and it was nice to see the results. But I think that I would say like don't be afraid, go and do it, because all the time we think, oh, if what's gonna happen if we make any mistake? What's gonna happen with the competition? How the market is evolving? All the time I'm traveling throughout the world, visiting, doing benchmarks with global players. I'm learning a lot all the time with my investors, with my colleagues. So I try to be all every time ahead of the time, and learning a lot. But if I would look to the past, I would say, look, don't be afraid. Just keep doing it, keep going. Don't be insecure with any problem that you're gonna face, because for sure we are gonna face a lot of problems. But we can overcome it. We can do it. So I think that I would say that.
Yeah, I think that's good advice, especially when a problem might seem so big when you're in front of it at one time, but as you go over it and there's more problems, you realize that maybe it wasn't so big. And I think that's really good advice. Um, really appreciate you taking the time to do the podcast, and I wish you the best of luck going forward in growing iFood both in Brazil and abroad. Thanks again for taking the time.
All right, Nathan. Thank you so much.
Thanks again for listening to this episode of Crossing Borders. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks to Beatrice, Jessica, and Vitor for helping me set up this conversation, and to Anka and Sofia who helped produce the podcast. Please share this episode with a friend if you liked it, and consider writing a review on iTunes and Stitcher. It's the best way to get the word out about Latin American tech companies. Thanks again for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your